Hello, Ducks fans. Welcome to another episode of the Quack Report. This is our post-draft edition. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see we have a third face that if you're a longtime listener, you have probably recognized this beautiful man just below Nate and I. Maybe not, because last time we saw him on here, he was wearing quite the outfit. It was like sombrero hat and like Hawaiian t-shirt, and
it was the California
reflector. Yeah, like a reflector jacket on too.
I would have brought them back, but I lost them in the house fire. So I will replace everything. Like eventually, my entire outfit will be Hawaiian t-shirts. So it'll come back.
You know what I think we need to add in there though is a TQR bucket hat. We'll make sure you get one.
Bucky? I'll take a bucket.
Yeah. Oh man. Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, from Flames Nation, he is joining us to talk all about the NHL draft, Shane Stevenson. And there we go.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
And this is why I still need the keyboard sound myself. It's only been how many weeks?
It's because I'm not at home, so I don't have my physical keyboard. I have
now
to
you have
click the button.
excuses. I see how it is. All right. Shane, buddy, how you been doing?
I'm good. I've been in complete draft mode for about 2 weeks, so now I have to swiftly here in the next 2 days start getting into free agency mode. And in Flames world, it's kind of chaotic. We'll leave that for the Flames podcast. So that's way more complicated than it needs to be. So so I'm shifting into that. But it was a good draft weekend for a lot of young guys, and it was good. A lot of dreams come true. And now, as they say, the work starts for these young guys now. Draft's just the beginning, so it's nice to celebrate for a night. But now you got it doesn't matter whether you were picked first or 219th, you still got a shot as long as you go to camp. So now it's time to get to work. Development camps are already starting. So
yeah, absolutely ridiculous. I was hearing there was I forget who was the Detroit pick, I think in the first round there. Apparently he was at a bar wearing his draft jersey though. I'm like, that's ballsy.
Casper? Was it Casper?
Yeah, it was Casper, I think.
Marco Casper? Yeah. That was my very Stevie Y. That was my Stevie Y. I'm like, I think Stevie Y will reach for Casper. He just feels like the Stevie Y guy. And then he went and I was like, satisfaction. So
okay, before we get into the draft stuff, we did have Stevie Y moves. Can we talk about the fact that he got Ville Husso for a third round pick? Like it's signing rights, right? Because he's going to be.
And then you got to sign him, and they were willing to pay him. That's the kicker. Like how many teams wanted to pay a goalie? And there's a lot of dichotomy online because Ville Husso had a he was the best goaltender in the league for the first half of the season, and he wasn't that in the second half. And Binnington overtook him in the playoffs. So a lot of teams back away, right? They want to see a goalie do it for the whole season. Stevie Y is still in rebuild mode. They got a new coach. They have Nedeljkovic as a secondary insulation. Like, you got the money. You need to hit the cap floor. A lot of young guys. Moritz Seider's still under $1 million right now for another 2 years. So that doesn't bother me. It's a good gamble. Well, Lucas Raymond's under $1 million for another 2 years too. Like you can spend money like that on those positions, and now it's a competition between those two goaltenders. And if one of them survives, then Detroit has a starting goalie for the next 10 years. So it's smart moves by Stevie Y as usual.
Yeah, Husso has a great few seasons, and like he looks like a genius for the next 4 years? Is that how long he signed for?
Three.
Yeah, for the next 3 years, Stevie Y might look like a genius if Husso puts up solid numbers consistently.
You can tell I've been trying to keep up with stuff. I didn't even know the guy got signed. I just saw the trade.
He immediately 3 years, $4.5 million. So he invested $4.5 million over 3 years, which is what not a lot of teams would do that on a goalie that unproven.
But
right?
You can.
They'd want to go down in the maybe 2.5, 3 range on a 2-year deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Detroit said, you know what, screw it. We'll pay our assets. We've got enough. We've got a hell of a cupboard of prospects right now. Let's pay it. And now we've got 2 young goaltenders. Let's see which one wins the battle and see where we can go from there. So I'm a big Stevie Y fan. It's kind of funny. Like growing up, to me, the direct comparable to Steve Yzerman was Joe Sakic, and they both turned out to be fantastic general managers. So it's like it just mirrors. They mirror each other to me. So
yeah. So one guy that's learned a lot under Stevie Y is the Ducks' new GM, or I guess he's not really new. He's been around for a few months now, but Pat Verbeek, and he did some work over the last couple of days So I don't know. You guys want to get into some Ducks picks here, Shane? I know this is a little. You were saying on Twitter that this is the one time you'll be nice to Ducks in general.
I'll be nice to
then you're
Ducks
back to
fans
hating
while
them.
I'm on a Ducks podcast, but the second the recording stops, I'm back to hating them permanently. No, it's I like what the Ducks did on the weekend. I love their first pick. Let's go first round first,
Sure.
because they took defenseman from the Saginaw Spirit, Pavel Mintyukov, and he's just an all around do everything kind of player. Not the one to primarily take the first shot. He likes to keep play alive in the zone. Very good at transition. Extremely good at neutral zone defense as well. He was one of the best all-around defensemen that were available in the draft. And the Ducks, they just snagged him. They had the 10th pick. They're good up front. They've got wingers and they've got centers coming. Troy Terry just broke out. He's young. They've got lots of good things coming. It's good to start getting that D back up, because Drysdale already made the team, and you've kind of, the Ducks kind of let the prospects go bare here. Like Josh Manson's gone. Who else you guys would know more?
He might not be gone for long. There's already been talk of like, oh yeah, he'll just come back now. He's got his cup.
Yeah, he's got his cup. He can come hang out. Who wouldn't want to hang out in? Let's be real. Who wouldn't want to spend the rest of their career on the beaches in Anaheim?
Exactly.
Let's be real here. Why do you think no one ever leaves San Jose? The old joke is, no one ever leaves San Jose. They just stay there. It's because it's nice.
Exactly.
In the winter, it's plus 25, and you can go walk your dog on the beach. Like, of course, why wouldn't you want to play in Anaheim?
Southern Alberta, we're just getting to that temperature now.
Yeah. It can go back to minus 10 whenever it wants to. I'm a winter guy, so
Yeah,
I insulate.
Yeah.
No, I that was a very smart pick this draft. Everyone said that there was so much volatility in this draft. There was so much, Shane Wright went 4th. So no one's predictions were really on the mark. No one really nailed this draft. It was everywhere, and everyone kind of just got. This is funny because all these players previous season, their D-1 we call it, was COVID. So a lot of them, some of them lost it. Some of them had shortened seasons. It's really hard to evaluate when you don't get as much time to view these guys as possible. So I think Anaheim did a pretty good job, especially with their first pick. Do you guys have anything on?
Yeah, well, Mintyukov would have been one of those guys who lost his D1, right? Because the OHL didn't play at all this last season there. Like you said, all-around player on defense. He scored 17 goals and 45 assists for 62 points in 67 games this year with the Saginaw Spirit. So, yeah, definitely a guy that can, help put pucks in the net and that sort of thing. But like you said, he's an all-around guy too, from what I've been able to gather. So if you've, been listening to this show for a little bit, I was really high up on Connor Geekie for that 10th overall pick. I was kind of kicking myself when, Arizona takes him 11th, but that's not to be a slight on Mintyukov personally, or that. That was just the guy that I was looking for. So.
Well, they did get their power forward later, but we'll get to that next.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of had to dip out for a minute and let the dog out, so I apologize if you guys talk about this, but I can.
Who let the dogs out?
I kind of, when we drafted Mintyukov, I kind of thought immediately like, oh, this seems like a Lindholm replacement. Maybe not for next year, but like a couple years down the road, because puck moving defenseman, plays the left side. That's kind of what Lindholm was for us. Yeah.
And I subscribe to a Patreon from at Mitch L. Brown on Twitter. He manually tracks data, and he does it in the CHL and the NCAA as well as other leagues. It's well worth the money. He directly compares and puts all of a bunch of advanced statistics into a database, and players get ranked on percentiles. So the higher the percentile, the better you were in relative to your peers. Mintyukov, in his draft eligible season, his entry prevention percentage was 96%. So Nate mentions the points. The points are great, but he's doing it because he doesn't even let guys into his own zone. He's great on controlled entries, relative percentage 91%, controls entry per 60. He's in the 95th percentile. Controlled exits out of the zone per 60. He's in the 80th percentile. So these are high-end numbers for a guy who it's his first draft eligible year. Like he's playing against guys that are 19 and 20 as well. We forget about that. Guys that didn't lose entire years to OHL years to COVID. So it's a very positive sign. He definitely deserved to be a high pick, and the Ducks snagged him. It's a great prospect. I'm glad a Russian kid went high. There was a lot of negative talk about the Russian kids this year with their situation. Yeah. The kids aren't the ones at war, so I'm glad that Mintyukov, he was already over here and he was able to enjoy his draft day. So,
yeah, absolutely. Carter, you got anything to add?
No, I'm good. We can move on to Nathan Gauthier. Is that how you say that?
Gauthier. It's
Gauthier.
probably Gauthier.
Okay.
I'm probably adding an I in there. I shouldn't be, but it's because I watched Frederick Gauthier play for the Leafs way too long. Nathan Gauthier. Nate mentioned the big power forward, the big power forward that he was wanting in Connor Geekie. Well, he kind of gets Connor Geekie light when you get Nathan Gauthier. He's very good at offense. He's very good at using his body to drive the net. The one thing I don't like about him is his defensive play. It's very questionable, and for a guy that plays center, you need to have a strong defensive game. So I'm very interested to watch how he projects. His offense is there, and he's playing against junior competition. That's great. But when he gets put up against higher level guys or pros that have been doing it for a while, that's when I want to see him tested. I want to see him tested in his own zone to make sure he can, not let quality chances against the center. Center's job is so important in the defensive zone. It's understated. So he's not a guy. Mintyukov I could see being there in 3 years, 2 if he really takes off. Gauthier's a 3 to 4, possibly 5 guy for me. Like you got to work with him. He's naturally going to get points, but you're definitely going to have to work on his play in the neutral zone and how he gets through it into it. You got to attack properly. You can't just attack relentlessly. So
yeah, he'll be a guy probably that'll spend a couple years still in junior, right, and then go to San Diego, develop there a little bit, and then we'll hopefully see him in a Ducks uniform. So, sorry, go ahead, Carter. I was just gonna read stats because that's what I'm good at doing here in terms of prospects is reading stats.
Yeah. What would you say Gauthier's potential is? Like, is he a middle 6 guy? Is he a top 6 guy?
I see him
going to have center depth. So
I don't think he'll ever take over Mason McTavish. Like, that's the kicker. Like, Mason McTavish is the guy of the future. He's direct. Like, Getzlaff's leaving, right? Great legend, Hockey Hall of Fame. We'll see you there. That's McTavish's spot to take. And you already got Zegras. So that's he doesn't need – you don't need him anytime soon. Those guys should be your 1-2 punch up the middle for the next 5-6 years, no questions, right? Like that should be it. McTavish you still got Henrique as an insulation. You still got Sam Steele. You still got some guys there that you don't have to force him to play 20 minutes a night against top competition. McTavish can come along slowly. But as for Gauthier, he slots in maybe at the 3C there. He has potential to be a 2C with the offense, but he definitely, like you said, if he doesn't get his defensive game around, he's not going to find those opportunities. He could shift to the wing. He's drafted. Just because you're drafted as a center doesn't mean you have to go there. And he could be a very effective power forward on the wings if he can learn how to properly forecheck and get separation from the puck and at the top level. So the tools are there. The size is that you can't teach size. They say that all the time. And
Pierre Maguire.
But he has potential with the offense in his game to be a second line player. In my mind, he could easily be a third line, and definitely anybody like that, as long as they've got pace and speed, can play on the 4th line in the NHL. So will he play? I think he'll definitely play more than a handful of games. What's his ceiling? Well, that's up to him and the coach at the time. And to be honest, if he did develop, turn into a player and got moved for another in a package for a better player at a deadline when the Ducks are good enough to make a run, that wouldn't surprise me either. Just because you take him doesn't mean he's going to play. You could use down the line. Like I said, they're good 1-2 punch up the middle for the long term, theoretically. Especially Zegras is not going to get worse, so he might have a slump year, but he's definitely the kid's a rock star. So
no, for sure.
I do see Gauthier playing. I don't know what level. I want to see him play in the American Hockey League for good 20-30 games before I really okay, that's a ceiling. I like to give him time. The first year after you're drafted is crucial for development. You can't take a step back. It's huge. It's predominantly 95% of players that turn out to be good NHLers always take a step forward when they're next year after their draft. So that's crucial for him to go back to junior and dominate. You're expected to be a dominating player, especially in the QMJHL. Like it's considered the weakest of the 3 Canadian leagues, and if you can't go back and immediately dominate as a first round pick, it's not a great sign. Doesn't mean the end of the world, just not a great sign. So
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Gauthier this year had 57 points, 31 goals in 66 games with the Quebec Ramparts, and had 9 points in 12 playoff games this year. Like I said, I'm good at reading stats.
yeah. Be careful. Then all of a sudden you start getting into the fancy stats, and then it's hooked to your.
I've been trying to, so I've been slowly getting into it. So my favorite are I've been understanding the goalie stats. Those are the big things that I've been getting. Like,
yeah, of course you and your goals.
Not surprising, hey.
Nate's goals above expected is negative 27. So just so everyone knows, that's terrible.
Damn.
Pretty sure that's worse than Grubauer this year.
Yeah, it was bad. He was bad. All right, now the second round interested me because I get why they took Warren ahead of Leno, but they were teammates, line mates at times, defense pairing. So it's natural chemistry you've just brought into your organization from guys that are the exact same age. They did go heavy on D to start the draft, though. So 3 defensemen from an organization that knows how to develop defensemen. Let's put that into perspective. Shea Theodore, Shea Theodore, Josh Manson, tons of Anaheim defensemen are littered throughout the league that all grew up playing in Anaheim and are now currently members of other organizations. So, if you're good at developing, why not overabundance? Take what you're good at. Draft a bunch of them, and then if you can't develop wingers, we'll use the great D to draft wingers that are already developed, right? Like you can trade them later. Like nothing's a permanent asset. There are people on the other end of this, so it's not just like a video game. We can't just toss them aside, but but it's there. And if you've got an overabundance, it's a good thing. The Ducks have tons of stuff in their cupboard. They've drafted great for about 3 years now. Pat Verbeek has been making fantastic trades and moves, and he's been very sleek since he took over. And as a Flames fan, I hate it. Like, stop being good. The same thing when the Oilers hired Jay Woodcroft. I was like, don't do that. He's a good coach. I don't want that. I want you to suck. So
hey, you know what? The Oilers are balanced though by still having Ken Holland. So
noted starting goaltender Mike Smith.
LTIR.
No Warren. He interests me because he's the typical big defenseman, right?
Yeah.
When you draft a big defenseman high, it can burn you so bad. It can. You look at like Luke Schenn, Stanley Cup champion, so everyone's gonna hate me that he was a 5th overall pick. Based on his career trajectory, should he been a 5th overall pick? Absolutely not. 2nd, 3rd round maybe. But when you take the big defenseman that can skate, you risk not being able to develop the rest of his game. And normally I worry about that with Noah Warren. And I thought, well, if a team like Arizona took him, poor kid's not going to get what he needed. But he literally went to the one team that I was like, they might be able to actually turn him into a very effective player. They did it with Manson. Like Manson wasn't exactly a shoot 'em up scoring style guy, and they were able to bring him up, and he effectively was very effective in the Colorado Stanley Cup run. So whenever I can see an organization do stuff like that, it's like, okay, well, I trust that now. I don't always trust every organization to do that. I wouldn't trust the Senators to develop any sort of defenseman ever. So, so that's good. Leno is the one with the more offensive talents. He's definitely a better skater, definitely better in terms of offense. Noah, you can think of him as your prototypical defensive defenseman, and together they make quite the pair. Together they make quite the pair. The one guy that stays home and the one guy that flies. In terms of Calgary pro comparison, it's like Shillington and Tanev. Now, I'm not saying Warren's as good at defense as Tanev is, but stylistically, that's the theory of the pair. And the Ducks have now control of their destination, and they can just play them together for the next however long they want and benefit from the natural chemistry they're going to get from these guys. So,
if anyone's curious as to how big Noah Warren is, at 17 years old, His birthday is on the 15th coming up here, and he'll turn 18. 6'5", 225 pounds.
That's a big boy.
Big. And now
Isn't Manson close to that?
Manson's 6'4", I think.
He's also not 17.
Yeah, but
That's what I'm
17
saying.
years old is an insane thing. And if you saw him at the draft, that ain't fat weight. That is
No.
not fat weight. That's not
No,
like
that is a
that is-
man
that
right
guy
there.
is muscle, and that kid is big boy. Like you don't want the kicker is his skating. Now they say he is a better skater than most players that play like him. I liked Maverick Lamoureux better than him, which apparently the scouts did too, because he ended up being a first round pick, and he was Lamoureux was 6'7", 2 something, like around what Warren is. The fact that there was two of them available in one draft was what surprised me. Like two huge guys that can skate, because that's the two things you want from a defensive defenseman. You want them to have a good stick, and you want them to be mobile. Because if they're not mobile, that's the hardest thing to get into a big guy, and that's a lot of time and effort you're going to put into to someone that, okay, now you can skate, but then he can't pass, and then he can't shoot, and because you split all the time trying to teach him how to skate. You don't really need to do that with Warren. He can skate a bit better than a lot of the people his size, so he can focus on his positioning and his stick work, and that'll take him farther as a pro. Again, outside the top 10, 15 picks, I really want to see the progressional step of the next year. After round four down, it's really like we really need to see what's next, because you may have potential, but we need to absolutely see what your next step is. Like, you take a guy out of the high school, or you take a guy out of the AJHL or BCHL, you really want to see what they can do at a level against better competition, against older competition, more experienced. Warren and Lino, again, they're in the queue as well. There's a lot of queue in the top end of this draft, and it's fine. They're good prospects, but like I said, the league isn't the strongest. So the jump to a better league is very important to me in terms of watching them develop.
Yeah, something I noticed actually from Pat Verbeek's drafting here, 6 of the 8 picks come from the CHL, and 3 of them are from the Q. Then you have another 2 from the WHL, and your top pick there in Mintyukov is from the OHL.
Mm-hmm.
He's liking his Canadian-based kids, and I'm liking it too as a Canadian.
Yeah.
If they're grown on the farm lifting bales, he just loves them.
Oh, in that case, they're going to Calgary to play under Sutter.
Yeah. No, they just work at his farm, and then they go play for the Ducks. We forget Sutter worked for the Ducks.
Yeah, he did before,
right.
and I think there was talk that he was tried, or yeah. Oh my God, English is not my thing today. Bob Murray tried to hire Daryl Sutter as a coach before Dallas Eakins, I believe, and Sutter didn't want to do it.
He said he'd only coach for 2 teams. He'd coach for the Blackhawks, where he started his career we played as a player, and he coached to start his career in Calgary. Those are the only 2 which is home to him, because he's from Viking, right? So he'd play in the place that gave him his first start as a player and first start as a coach, or the place closest to home that felt like home to him. That's not a slight at when you're his age and you were at 600 NHL wins and 2 cups, you can just pretty much do whatever you want, right?
Yeah, so he was still an advisor to the Anaheim Ducks. He was a coaching advisor, I believe. So
he advised.
Yeah. So maybe he should have stuck with that job for our sake here, but yeah, Noah Warren, like you said, very defensive minded, only 24 points in 62 games. One stat though that we don't normally take a look at for the basic stats of that, he was a plus 17 for his plus minus, so that's looking pretty good, especially for like a not as great league like the QM as we're talking about here. So
yeah. I had a question. It totally slipped my mind. See if it comes back to me. But you were just before we got on. You were saying you were a little confused why the Ducks took Warren over Leno, and because you actually had Leno rated higher. Is that right?
I like Leno's offensive skills. That's my preference though. I like to rank guys with high end skill over the big defenseman. I value the defenseman still. I just don't like to use top 50 picks on those guys because you tend to see them not work out more than they actually do work out. That's why it's not terrible. When Maverick Lamoureux went 27th, that made the market for Warren increase. If Lamoureux doesn't go, Lamoureux was always ranked higher in Warren than pretty much everybody's list. So once he went, then there's only one other guy that fit that bill, that big guy that could skate. So I see why they took him there, why they didn't like, okay, well, if we want him, we have to take him, right? And they don't build him like that everywhere. So that's why they took him higher, I would think. But I just personally, Luneau and his skill set, I just liked it better. So that's my own personal preference. And that's everyone. Like, that's why the draft can be so different, because everyone's got a different team of scouts that are all preaching to their GM, I want you to take my guy, right? Yeah. Like, you got a guy posted up in Europe. You got a guy posted in the O, the Q. You got a guy posted up in the States. And all of them at the second round are going, oh, take my guy. He's falling. My guy fell. Or my guy's available. You know, like he's there. And you've got a bunch of guys in your ear. Now, normally you stick to your list. You make a list, you stick to your list. That doesn't happen. Like that changes as it goes on. They say that happens. It's not what happens. It changes consistently. And so when Lamoureux went, I think that's why they went with Warren. But I'd still, no matter what, I would be sticking to my guns. I'd be like, I don't care what any other team did. I care about what my team's doing, and I want the best player available whenever I pick. So they still got him. So it's not like it was a terrible thing. And Luneau is a very skilled defenseman. He's one of the better skaters in the draft for defensemen. So overall not terrible, but I was like, oh, why? Like why? Especially when I saw it, because by the time I checked in on the second round, it was Luneau and Warren had both gone, and I was like, okay, whatever. You got them both, so I mean,
that's what matters, hey? Yeah.
Pike tells me all the time, you want to have different types of players to check different types of boxes, because you don't know what you're going to need. And if you have the cupboards full of playmakers and scorers and two-way guys and defense-first guys and guys that are really good at defending the net versus guys that are really good at getting the pucks out of the zone, then you whenever you need something, you might have it in the minors. So drafting Mintyukov, Warren, and Luneau, who all profile differently, well, now you've got three different types of defensemen. One of them should pan out. Mintyukov should really pan out. Mintyukov should really pan out. But like, even if you get one of Gaucher, Warren, and Luneau turning into a surefire pick, then this draft is a huge success. So you hope you get one quality NHLer that you can play for long times. Really, you hope for one. If you can get two, you had a fantastic draft. If you can get three guys that become regular everyday contributors, you killed it. And that's the tiers. If you name a team that gets five guys that play 500 games for their organization all out of the same draft, I will tip my hat. I'll Venmo you $5. like that's
okay, I know what I'm doing after this year. I'm figuring that out.
I'll Venmo you $5. I'll actually buy Nate a Slurpee. It'll actually happen.
Perfect. Sounds good. And I was kind of laughing to myself too, because like you're talking about the Luke Shen pick at number 5, and how it maybe doesn't turn out quite the way you want it to, and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I've heard this. Where have I heard this? Oh yeah, right. Shane from Flames Nations Radio.
Oh, I have tons of examples. Dylan Mickelrath went 10th overall. Like, he's another one, that big guy. Even Eric Goodbranson going 3rd. Like, you look retrospect into his career. You look retrospect over the career, and you're like, okay, well, Calgary turned him into an everyday NHLer, but should he have gone there? Like these big risks that these guys take with these big defensive defensemen, they tend to hurt at that high in the draft. They tend to hurt you more than they help you. But the other kicker is, when you get the guys with size that can play, like Tyler Myers' first few seasons in the league were really, really good, which is why he's still valued today. He won the Rookie of the Year his first year in the league. He went high because he's big and he can skate. Like, if you want a guy that size to pan out, you really have to take the risks on them early. So some people may not like it, but I would never spend a first round pick on a project like that. That's just my own preference. Second rounder, okay, my scout better sell me on it. Third rounder, sure, whatever. Like at that point, unless it's your first
money,
pick, unless you're like Calgary and that's the only pick you had. Like Calgary had 59 and then 155. At 59, you can't take risks when you don't have that many picks. You should take the highest ceiling guys you have. So the Ducks had lots of picks. The Ducks had what, 2, 4, 6, 8 picks. One more than they were gifted to start. Right? You get 7. You get 7 on any given year ahead of times. It's crazy. We're going to have to keep track of this stuff because 2024 and 2025 picks got traded this weekend. So that used to be like a basketball and a football thing, and now it's leaked into hockey here. So that's
what Cap Friendly is good for. You can take a look at that and go, holy shit, the Arizona Coyotes had how many picks this year?
Yeah, seriously, them and the Canadians. Like everyone's like, Coyotes and the Canadians had a good draft. I'm like, it was almost hard for them to not, because even if they just blindly threw darts at the board, they'd eventually get a good player. So,
okay, so am I the only one who thought when Gary Bettman walked up to the stage at pick number 4 and said, we have a trade to announce that involves Montreal, did anybody else think that Montreal was getting that 4th pick and they were going to take Shane Wright as well? Did anybody else think that for a split second?
No, I didn't think they wouldn't want to pony up the cost. Like they kind of don't really have their key pieces are young. Like they're the key pieces they want to keep. They want to keep Nick Suzuki. Right? They don't want to trade him. They want to keep all the defensive.
And that would probably be the price. Yeah.
Like if you're going to get 4th overall, you want a surefire top 6 forward is what you want, plus another pick. So fans did not like that Romanov got traded. That was hilarious.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Even funnier, on the way into the draft, Montreal fans were booing Yuri Slafkovsky. They were booing him. They were like, "We don't want you. We don't want you." Who goes first? Slafkovsky. Now they'll all backtrack, guaranteed.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Backtrack. But yeah, Montreal did really good. Seattle did good by virtue of everyone falling into their lap. They didn't have to do anything crazy. Literally just fell. They got Jagger Firkus and Shane Wright. Fell into their lap. If you told me they were going to get those 2 players at 4th and 33, I'd have laughed at you. I would have laughed at you.
Yeah.
And I could see Firkus falling, but I didn't see Wright falling to 3. That surprised me. Like I liked Cooley. I really liked Cooley over Wright. I personally did. And I really liked Nemec. Nemec might be the pick of the draft. You don't even know it. He's like a unicorn on defense. He could turn into the next big thing. But I didn't see. I knew Slafkovsky was great, but I didn't think he'd fall to 4. I really didn't. So
yeah, that was very surprising. But I mean, Seattle's just laughing the whole way. So
year. So I mean,
he got an extra year though, didn't he? So like, cause he started in the OHL when he was 15.
He started exceptional status when he was.
Thank
15.
you. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. So the extra year to like pick things apart probably hurt him a little bit too.
You focus more. That's not a bad thing. You can focus more on playing defense when you get to that point too. So it could go better long term. Other players that had exceptional status come to mind. I think Drew Doughty, John Tavares. I don't know if Doughty actually had it. Tavares for sure got exceptional status. Yeah. Did Pietrangelo get it? I think Pietrangelo got it too.
Pietrangelo,
Ekblad did for sure.
One McDavid, obviously.
McDavid, yeah. But those are the level of players. So Wright doesn't fall into those guys. Like he's not the same as the other forwards. So we'll see at this current time. We'll see. He could develop. Like Seattle doesn't really have that many other prospects to put their resources into, right? So the guy's going to get everything they got, and they are analytically driven, and they are a smart run organization in terms of their back office. So that interests me. We got way off Ducks, by the way.
We did
a little bit, but you know what? That's fine. It is a draft show, so
yeah.
But
I did want to ask you about Wright, anyways. So we kind of like naturally made our way.
Naturally, just got there.
Yeah.
No, I love the stare down. You go up there and you just stare at the table. Really did this to me? It's been called the Shane Wright draft for 3 years, and you did this to me?
Yeah.
Well, and there was, there was all the talk and kind of like wonder, like, oh, did he actually stare them down and that kind of thing? And a friend of ours, Nikki, had shared someone else's post that was bringing up that idea, and sure enough, you see liked by, and it was Shane Wright's Instagram handle.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, okay, this will be fun. It just made Seattle versus Montreal versus Arizona versus New Jersey must-watch hockey, and who would have said that during this year at all, right?
Well, I tune into New Jersey all the time because like they're a goalie away from actually being good. Jack Hughes is great. Nikhil Hischier is a defensive-minded center, which a lot of people would kill for, that they have signed for not terrible amount of money. Jesper Bratt's unreal. Dougie Hamilton's quarterback in their back end. They've got Alexander Holtz. They got Dawson Mercer coming. Mercer kind of already came, and he's there. Holtz is next, and they're apparently in the big market money for a big money left wing to play with Hughes and Hischier, and they add Nemec to play next to Hamilton or whoever. I don't think Nemec will play right away. He probably should play another year, develop, but we'll see. New Jersey's setting themselves up good. They just needed a goalie, which they got in Vanacek. Now, I don't know if he's the answer, but we'll find worth finding out. He's been an NHL goaltender for 2 years now. So, yeah, New Jersey won the lottery, and now they got the piece they needed. Like, they didn't need a center and they didn't need a winger. They needed another defense, one that really, really come along or has a super high ceiling, and they got that. They got the defenseman in the draft. So, Jiricek's great, and he was a very Kekalainen pick to me. I said that to my girlfriend when it came up. I was like, it just feels like Kekalainen will take Jiricek. He's a European GM. He's like a European defenseman. I just like, it feels right, and sure as hell that one went. So I was like, I did that with Yzerman, and I did that with Kekalainen. I was like, nice, and it's hard. I'm proud of myself for guessing the Yzerman pick before it happened. I was like, that was...
Yeah, nobody knows what
no one knows. I did the Cider thing. I was like, who's that? I literally was like, that kid? Like, back and then he was like ranked like in the second round or whatever. So I was like 4th or 6th overall, I think he went. Like, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh yeah, you just never question Steve Yzerman. Ever. No. Ever. So, and the other thing I got to mention since we're on everything, Isaac Howard, fantastic vibes. Like, if there was an award for best vibes at the draft, it was either him or the kid wearing the blue fedora. Like, he showed up in a turtleneck and chain, and like the blue turdy and the chain.
And it was Tampa blue almost, yeah.
He goes 31st, so late. He's been there all night, right? And he just struts up, and he's like, yeah! Like, he's just having a blast, right? Like, doesn't care. Love that attitude. Tampa, I don't know if you guys saw a few years back, they made this video when COVID was over, and there was all them guys jumping on jet skis to go. Yeah, I
remember that.
Just the vibes Howard gave in that video just seemed to mesh perfectly. So I thought
what did he say at the desk after? He's like, I'm the best looking guy here, so I thought I'd be the best dressed guy here also.
Yeah. That was a good line.
And he also said the NHL, like, he's like the NBA. He did. He's like the NBA and the NFL tend to have personalities. He's like, I don't know why we don't either. And I was like, that's
absolutely right.
That's what I'm talking about. I need more Jake Voraceks yelling at the press. Like, let's go.
Yeah, you got Isaac Howard. We got our own Trevor Zegers. Like, it's a lot of the guys coming from the U.S. development program who are bringing in that personality to the NHL. And you know what? As a Canadian, all to you for like to the States for that, because we absolutely need it. 100%.
You grew up as a kid, whether you're in the States or Canada, and you see. You watch the NBA draft and you see that these guys are wearing customized suits and fancy hats and big old watches. Like they dress up. The difference is, though, at those drafts, those guys are like 22, 21. Like they've gone through college.
Yeah.
17, 18-year-old kids getting drafted. Most of these kids don't even understand what fashion is or what they even like to wear because they're still wearing what their mom bought them at the friggin' Tip Top Tailors. So
God, I think back to like the 2003 entry draft, right? And like all these guys that we've, grown up watching and everything like that. And I think of like, Marc-Andre. Yeah, like Marc-Andre Fleury's got like his glasses and spiked tips. And you're just like, oh man, like it's just it's kind of the nerdy look, right? Like
maybe I'll cut my hair and get frosted tips. I won't. I trust me. When I watch Top Gun, I'm definitely not going to shave. I definitely will not do that. So
come on, man, join the club.
Nate did that.
Hey, it is coming back already.
Yeah, it's coming back quick. So that's pretty
good. Yeah. So hopefully in a couple of months we'll be back to where we were. So we are 4 picks in at this point here. We're halfway through. So I'm going to give Shane a break from talking. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
Before I give you a break.
You never need to give me. I got Ben King stuff up on my computer already, so just let me know when you're ready.
All right, sounds good. So we'll give Shane a break because unlike most episodes, I'm not doing a bunch of the talking here. So I'm going to talk for a moment here and tell you about DraftKings. The action never ends at DraftKings Sportsbook, especially this summer. With tons of ways to bet on all your favorite sports, you can feel your fandom and feel the heat of the season like never before. Plus, right now, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's right. Make your first bet up to $1,000, and if it doesn't win, you'll get another shot to cash in. You can throw down on all the major action for baseball, golf, MMA, and more. Plus, with same-game parlays, spreads, money lines, over-unders, and props, your betting options feel endless. Best of all, DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So, what are you waiting for? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use the promo code THPN, make your first deposit, and get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. Again, that's promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Nicely done, Nate.
Was I watching TV just now?
I kind of felt like it because you
have to
you
practice.
Look like, Shane, you looked like one of those people in like the infomercials where you're like, oh wow, really?
Wow, this product you're showing me that you didn't show me beforehand is tremendous. Wow.
I got this giant bucket of stuff and oh no, it fell. What am I gonna do?
I'm just really glad to hear a sports betting ad that doesn't end with now open in Ontario. So like this, it's fine. It's peace of mind. So I live in Alberta. I could give two craps if there's a sports book open in Ontario. But yet I can't.
Let me know when it's nationwide in Canada.
Yet I couldn't watch the Flames play the Oilers for 5 playoff games without hearing it 47 times a broadcast. So hell yeah.
On Sportsnet West.
Yeah. On Sportsnet West. So.
All right, let's get into our fifth pick, Ben King, out of I am not scrolled here. Oh my God, where the fuck? Oh, he's up the road. He's up the QE too. Red Deer Rebels of the WHL. Ben King had 68 games played this year, scored a whopping 52 goals, 53 assists for 105 points. And this guy is going in the 4th round, 107th overall.
There's a reason.
Why, Shane? Why?
Because he's 20.
Fair enough.
Makes sense.
It's his second year draft eligibility. So you got to watch for the overagers. You're like, why the hell did a guy with 104 points go in the 4th round? It's because he's 20. That's why he's an overager. So they snagged him. This was his last year of draft eligibility, I believe. And there's a reason for that. He has troubles getting out of his own zone. He is not very good as a centerman. Struggling to get out of your own zone is a big problem. So it means you're turning pucks over and you're causing the team to come back the other way. When he's in the offensive zone, he's flying. He's at home basically. He's at home. He can pass the puck like crazy. He can make great assists. But when Nathan Gaucher has better stats, offensive stats than you as well, and he's 3 years younger, there's some risk there. The kicker here is Ben King's old enough that if they wanted to bring him right to San Diego, they could. They could let him. They could just not sign, and then they could keep him in the dub again for like an extra overage year. That's allowed. That can happen. So lots of different ways they can go about it. They can see how he looks at development camp. Again, when you get into the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, you get guys with raw tools and you try to develop the holes and hope that maybe if injury or something happens one day, they can slot in, and if they get their chance, they take it, they go. So Ben King, an older guy out of Red Deer, earned his shot, definitely scored enough that it got people looking, and they'll try to develop him. But you definitely in 7 games tracked with Ben King in Mitch Brown's database, his controlled exits per 60 was in the 10th percentile. So that's very, very bad. So he's just not good. That's 105.9 minutes of his ice time, and you're in the 10th percentile. So it's rough. But shot assists per 60, 97th percent. So there's talent there. you've got to round out the game. And that's pretty much that's going to be, there's talent there, but you need to round it out is basically every player we're about to talk about. So
cool. Perfect.
Sounds good. And that wraps up the episode.
No, I got a good quote for the last guy, so we got to get all the way down.
We got to get there. Okay. Well, let's well, I don't have anything else to say about Ben King because we're getting into the guys I've literally never heard
we
of,
could
so.
rapid fire these almost.
Yeah, so let's get into the 5th round, and you can tell everybody how to pronounce this guy's last name.
Hividston. I'm probably killing it. It's Connor Hividston. Defense is he's my forechecker. Think Zach Hyman. Think Zach Hyman like. He's the guy
You're
that
speaking my lingo now.
He's the guy you throw into the corner to just take a beating, but he gets the puck out for your skill guys. It's a valuable position. It needs to happen. And it needs to be filled. Zach Hyman was a 5th round pick of the Florida Panthers. So, but there's other guys like Michael Bunting. He does that for the Matthews line. You need
speaking
guys
of
like
overage guys, in a class where they maybe shouldn't be.
Yeah.
As we're talking earlier.
Yeah. So yeah, Hividston, that's what you hope he pans out to be. Obviously, like you said, I said it before. I don't think I've said it on this podcast, but like they're kids. There's lots of room to grow. There's lots of room to stall out too. So you don't want to outright say, "Oh yeah, no, like don't worry about him," right? Because no, they got drafted for a reason, and if they put the work in to round out their game, they could go farther. But they need to have that a drive and that work ethic. And when you don't have that natural scoring ability, you have to work your butt off every shift of every game from now until the time you make it. And once you make it, just to stay. Like Andrew Cogliano said, he said, especially when you get older and you lose the ability to just naturally find all those scoring spots, you have to work everywhere else on the ice, just so you can stay and just so you can keep competing. And these kids need to have that. These lower drafted kids, they need to have that every shift of every game going forward. So they're noticed and they get the opportunities when they come. When they see the work ethic, they're the one that gets the call up because the management notices that they're the ones that work their butts off every shift and they don't take any time off when they're on the ice. So Hividston needs to do that. He's got the motor to do it. He just needs to be a bit more successful in turning his offensive time into goals. He's not exactly a high-end finisher. So, and then I think we have Michael Callow next, and I don't know if I'm going to have much on him. I'm not a big high school watcher. I tend to watch the top-end picks. He played for St. Sebastian's School. Probably has ridiculous scoring numbers because it's high school hockey, and if you get drafted out of Minnesota high school, you just had insane point numbers. So
41 points in 25 games.
Yeah. So I don't know much about Michael Callow. And when we get to the 6th round, 178th overall, Vyacheslav Budiets. I'm going to steal a quote from my good pal that I've never met, Daryl Sutter. I know 2 things about goaltenders. I know big saves and bad goals. That's it. So as for evaluating them and who plays, that can be the goalie coach and the goalie coach's choices. I will not ever pretend to know about goaltenders. I will not ever pretend that I could even be a goaltender. I've tried. It's not as easy as it looks. Please stop taking slap shots at my head. And yeah, so the big saves, basically what I mean by big saves and bad goals is, you make the huge save, the windmill stop when it should have went in. And you let Rasmus Anderson take a chip shot from your own zone and let one in. That's called a bad goal. So
you're saying the Ducks drafted Russian Mike Smith here?
Well, I actually haven't seen anybody else.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I can tell you the stats look better than Mike Smith in 11 games in the VHL in Russia. There, a 249 goals against average, a 6-6 or a 6-2-2 record, and a 918 save percentage.
The VHL
for Russians' second tier league, basically.
The V is M is their junior, MHL is their junior league, and it's like below the CHL, but above like QMJH or not Q, above like the BCHL and the AJHL. It's like between the CHL and that. The VHL is like their step up, like their intro to the pros. It's their version of the AHL, still not as skilled as the AHL. So put it somewhere between where college hockey kind of ends and like better than the East Coast League, but definitely not near the AHL level of talent. So that's kind of where that leads, which is good, which means theoretically, he could stay there. He could jump to the K. He could stay there. If he comes over, the Flames just did it. I don't know if it was Arseny Sergeyev or Daniil Chechelev. One of them came over. That's Pike. Pike's the goalie guy. Like I said, I do not pretend for 1 second to know or even care about the goalies. I apologize. But,
No, I get it.
I never played it. I don't know how to evaluate. I played DN center growing up, so that's why I can this is where you're supposed. I was coached both ways, so it's like
You're like, hey, I'll protect you and you do your shit.
yeah. Goalies are.
Carter knows that too. He did it for me for ball hockey.
Yeah, I know. I just basically. I used to have this guy. I lived in my Crescent. Him was Parker Garrickson. I missed him. He moved away when we were 16, and we used to play road hockey. And he was definitely more skilled than me, and he would always just make me be the goalie. And he would just come out and play hockey and just take slap shots at me, and I would just take it until mom called me in for dinner. So never got to work on my skills, but I sure as hell took a beating, so it was all good.
You were joking earlier of like, please quit taking slap shots at my head. There was one time I got suited up on my cousin's backyard rink. All three of my cousins played, like rep hockey and that kind of thing. My cousin's still a junior B captain and everything like that, or my youngest. And there's the one day that I was just like, yeah, let's go out into the backyard rink. I'll suit up and at first I was like, oh, okay, they're taking like slap shots from the other end and they're coming up high kind of thing. And then I realized they're intentionally shooting at my head. So I started intentionally putting my head in the way if it was going wide. And that's what, yeah, goalies are weird, everybody. Okay. I get it. Thank you.
But yeah, so that's this year's draft class. You can add it to an already slew of great prospects from the last few years. We talked about McTavish. I just want to mention the fact that Allen Zellweger is going to be the steal of the 2021 draft. I still believe that. So that's just an absolute.
I was unreal this year.
We talk about the first year being the most important. Well, Allen Zellweger, what did he have, Nate? You're the stats guy. You want to pull it up?
I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah.
It was something ridiculous, anyways.
I'm looking right at it. So
guy was nuts. For the Everett Silvertips of the WHL, as a defenseman, remember, 55 games played, 78 points.
Yeah, that's just it's. Every team passed on him. Well, not every team. There's probably someone that didn't have a first-round pick that didn't get a chance to, but everyone passed on him. His star potential in Byron Bader's NHLE model went from 71 up to 75%. His comparables are Dougie Hamilton, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Zach Werenski, and Aaron Ekblad.
Those are some pretty
and from my limited hockey experience, those are pretty good defensemen.
Yeah. They're okay. I think all of them make a decent paycheck. Let's see, $9 million, $7 million, $9 million, $8 million. I don't know. Ekblad's somewhere above 7 too. So yeah, and then Daryl Sador, and I don't know if people remember who Daryl Sador was, but he was a good defenseman as well. So Zellweger has done everything. Calgary boy. So I'm not shy to plug him. Calgary boy. He's something like there's going to be a bunch of teams. He went 34th. A bunch of teams are going to be pissed they didn't take him. So since it's a draft show, we'll talk about last year's draft. That passed the job. I love him. He needs to still work on his skating. His offensive instincts are crazy. He should have went in the early second round as well. He went 66th to the Ducks. You also have Jacob Perreault coming, who is a natural sniper. He's one of the best shots of the 2020 draft that I saw when I was watching. He's going to be there. He's going to be a really good winger. And if you can get guys that can dish the puck like Leno, and if McTavish and Zegras do end up,
I was just thinking Zegras dishing them. Yes, please.
Well, if you can, you think of having Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, and Jacob Perreault together 2 years down the line. That's a crash and banger. That's a big guy that creates space, and a guy that can pass, and a guy that can score.
I'm going to embarrass my parents, my girlfriend here, but Shane, I can only get so hard, man.
You're welcome. Sorry, Suzanne. You're welcome. And then you have Sam Colangelo, who's Chicago Steel has done nothing but pump out quality prospects, and he's been playing at college, I think Northeastern, and he had a really good year, 27 points, 29 games. He's also progressing. So, like I said, the last three drafts, you found a lot of forward talent. Drysdale's already there. Zellweger's coming. You went heavy on D this time. You round it out. They're good in goal as long as Johnny Gibson stays. So
Yeah, hopefully we're not talking about him this time next week.
Oh,
let's
God,
just.
I just hope we're not talking about him at all this summer. Honestly.
So you added a bunch of good D prospects. You added a various amounts of ages and types of forwards. Typically, they went for a lot of size here. They went for a lot of size, especially with Gaucher and Warren. So all in all, good draft for the Ducks. I personally like their draft. I don't think they're going to be getting ranked A by any of like the professional Pronmans or the Scott Wheelers, but I personally, I would take it a B+. I think they did a good draft. I think one of their two of the three defensemen will end up being at least good, if not all three. And you have trade chips now. Just because you drafted good players, different types of players, and you can use them future in trades if you end up being a good or close to a playoff run. So,
yeah, I agree 100%. That was my next question for you, was what grade would you give the Ducks here? And
That's where I was going too.
I was definitely going to say, like,
I'm
personally, I would give it a
always
B+
one step
too,
ahead
so.
of you boys. I'm always
You
answering.
are, yeah.
We are. Well, I still remember.
I don't even know why we're here, honestly. Like, we should just sign you up and like let you go for an hour.
So remember, like the first time we had you on, it was just like you just kind of went off. I forget who we were even talking to as a waiver claim, and I was just like, "Okay, who is this guy?"
It was I remember it was
Lucas Alvines or something.
Yeah,
Lucas
Alvines. Yeah.
Alvines, yeah.
And
and I just went, and that I remember
he just went up, and I was just
about
like,
that.
"Okay, I got no more questions here, so thanks, Jay, for coming on."
You're
I
the
remember
perfect
you said
guest,
that,
honestly.
I tried to slow down this time because I remembered I just did all the talking last time. So I slowed it down to let Carter get at least a couple words in. So
Yeah, no, that's good.
I said I wouldn't have to do the heavy lifting this episode. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a night off for me.
yeah. So good. I mean, now you got to turn your focus to free agency, obviously, but because it's quick. But the Ducks aren't like, no one's expecting them to be a playoff team next year. Like, its expectations are still not there. Like, do they want to be? Sure. LA Kings made massive moves. Calgary, we have no idea what's going to happen with them. Edmonton still has McDavid. The Knights should rebound. They shouldn't miss again, especially with a full training camp and a full year of training for Jack Eichel. So it's not exactly going to be a cakewalk to get into
Bruce
the Pacific.
Cassidy leading the charge on
That's
the
right.
bench now too.
Yeah. So there's still a lot. It usually only send 3 teams from the Pacific. Could be a year where 4 is. I don't know. I got to really see what Vancouver does here to see if I even consider them. They've got a fantastic goaltender in Thatcher Demko, but their D is still a little weak, and they're up front. Like, they're talking about trading JT Miller. So, like, are you going for it? Are you rebuilding? Like, you need to make a choice here, Vancouver, eventually. Patrick Alvin. Did you guys see that they drafted Elias Pettersson?
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
By the way,
They drafted him again.
Did you
No
see
way.
the Canucks, who's their best player is Elias Pettersson, drafted Elias Pettersson.
It's like, no, you did not read that wrong, and no, we did not read the teleprompter wrong either.
Yeah, I was just hoping Jack Hughes too would go to the Devils as well, but he went.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, he didn't go to Montreal because his dad. That's the funny part. His dad is the GM of the Habs, so everyone was like. But girlfriend asked me, she's like, "Would you take him?" I was like, "You can't. You can't justify ever taking your kid." And
No.
Unless like one of your
everyone will
scouts,
say
like,
you
he's
did
a
it
top-
on purpose.
Yeah, like unless one of your scouts is like he's a top 5 for me actually. Before
Unless like if Central Scouting has your kid ranked 3rd and you're a GM, you can, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone will be like, yeah, okay, whatever, right?
but you can't take him otherwise.
When the second round's so volatile and you've got like how many picks, like they could have took them, but I wouldn't. like I love a kid will go somewhere, but I'm not taking him.
Yeah. Just, see you later, son.
Yeah, you can go somewhere else. You're not dealing with me and my dictatorship here, so we're just gonna move on.
Oh man. Well, Carter, do you have anything else? I guess.
I do have one more question for Shane. I don't want to take up too much of your time because we've already had you
Carter. No kidding.
for an hour, but
You take all of it, Carter. You're good.
but just because we talked a little bit about free agency, we just kind of touched on it. What do you think if you could make one move for the Ducks in free agency? What's the one move you think they need to do to have a successful?
Well,
next
they need
Wednesday,
to figure
I
out.
guess.
They really need to figure out, and I mean it seriously. They need to figure out what they're doing with Max Comtois. Like, he was a high end pick. He showed potential right away, and then he obviously had a back year that set him back a bit. And what are you going to do with him? You need to solve that immediately because that's a roster spot. He's not waiver eligible anymore. You need to free that up. You lost Getzlaf. Theoretically, we talked about it. McTavish can bump in there. The Ducks have so much cap space, though. They need to hit the floor, right?
Yeah.
They have only have 4 defensemen signed. I don't know if you count Mahura, but you'll get you just got Urho Vakanainen. I'm saying his name so bad. But you've got Fowler, Shattenkirk, and Drysdale. And Drysdale's only making $925. So I see them going after a defenseman, preferably a left shot one, because you got Shattenkirk and Drysdale on the right. Preferably a left shot one. I don't think John Moore plays, so you definitely. You need to replace Lindholm. You need someone. You need a top 4 left wing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, or not left wing, left D. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Ducks go give a 2 or 3 year deal to a veteran left shot defenseman, worth a fair amount of money because they need to hit the floor. So I'm talking like $3 or $4 million over 2 or 3 years. So that wouldn't surprise me. They still have to pay Lundestrom, Milano, and Steele. Those shouldn't be expensive. None of those players really went either way. Milano might be the most expensive of those. You probably bridge Lundestrom because he's only 22. Mm-hmm. But like your top paid player right now is Fowler at $6.5 million. Like
that's
a
bad problem to have.
It's him at 6.5. It's Gibson at 6.4. It's Henrique at 5.8. Third most paid is Shattenkirk, 3.9. And do you think he finishes the year as a Duck, or do you think he gets traded at the trade deadline because he's pending UFA? I probably gets traded. He's a Stanley Cup champion. Like people forget that part. Like that matters to teams at the deadline. So you're gonna need money to sign Zegras here right away. But I mean, even if you bridge him, it's not gonna be over $6-7 million. So you're probably losing Zach Aston-Reese. He'll get paid on the market, and so you definitely need veteran presences. You can't just have the kids there. So I see a veteran left shot D, and I definitely see some. It would be nice for them to sign another center, and not just completely rely on Henrique, Zegras, and McTavish, really. And you've got Sam Carrick, and you've got Lundestrom and whatnot. Maybe a right wing. They don't really have that many right wings, do they? Silverberg, but he's hurt, isn't he?
Yeah, he's very unreliable for playing 82 games. So
they could definitely use outside Troy Terry. They could definitely use some skill on the right-hand shot side, and none of the prospects are going to be ready. So you maybe see that. You might see them dump $5-6 million into a right shot winger. It depends if they want to compete, but they tried. They tried to get Dadonov. They tried. He's not a right shot winger, but he's a right winger. He's a left shot right winger. But, I foresee that. I foresee a veteran right winger and a veteran left defenseman.
Yeah, Anaheim tried to get Dadonov. Vegas said, "Okay, let's do it." And Dadonov said, "Hold on a second here."
He pulled a Matt Murray.
Yeah.
Matt Murray, who would rather play for the Belleville Senators than the Buffalo Sabres.
Which does that show how much he enjoys actually being in Ontario, or does that show what he thinks about the Buffalo Sabres more than anything?
Both.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But you were talking about left-hand defenseman. I don't know, a name that stuck out. Calvin DeHaan could be interesting.
That would fit. You need a veteran lefty.
And defensive defenseman too.
Your right-hand shots are offensive guys in Drysdale and Shattenkirk.
Yeah.
So getting a shutdown guy, you said Manson might come back, which would be fine.
That'd be the ideal situation.
Amazing.
On your right side, you still need someone for the left side unless you think Mahura is the answer, which you could develop, but I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who the UFA is here. Oh, he can go get PK. I didn't know PK Subban was available. Oh, Malkin. Oh, yeah, just some casual Bergeron, Gaudreau. Just some casual names out here.
Should be a pretty quiet day. Nothing too interesting.
Let's go get Phil Kessel. There's some great food in California.
A veteran right-hand shot, and playoff teams aren't exactly lining up to sign him, right? So
I think he stays in Arizona, to be honest with you.
Well, he likes it there. Let's see, defenseman here, Nicoletti.
Yeah,
but he's not exactly defensive. Calvin DeHaan seems right. You could bring Manson back. That's, you might not like this, but Nikita Zadorov and Ben Sherratt fit that mold that I'm talking about. Veteran.
Ben Sherratt, I'll go for
Mm-hmm.
Zadorov, though. I want him as far away from any team that I talk about, please.
Yeah. I'm just looking at UFAs here. Ryan Murray's not what he used to be. He played 37 games for Colorado, only got 4 assists. Brett Kulak would be a good get, but I think all the rumors say he's more likely to stay in Edmonton because he's got a good fit there now, especially with Keith retiring.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, you go get Chris Russell.
Hey, former Medicine Hat Tiger Carter, now like that one.
But yeah, I'm getting down to the point where the
Russell.
list gets pretty scarce. But any one of those names I mentioned, they would fit just fine.
Yeah, we should trade John Gibson.
You need to spend money to get to the cap floor. They have $40 million in cap space, and their RFAs aren't going to demand more than maybe 10 of that. So you got $30 million. You got to spend at least probably 12 to 15. So what are you going to do? So you might as well go spend, because you don't need a goalie. You don't need a number 1 center. You don't need a number 1 D. Like you've got Drysdale, you've got Zegras, you've got Gibson. Like, to me, that's what I would do. I would look at that market. I would look at what fits. I would look and see, price range and what they want. Term, these are all guys in their 30, 31, 30, 29. Like, you could sign them to 3-4 years, get effective years out of them, and go forward.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm just kind of laughing because we're talking like, oh, okay, like who's the guy that we need that left-hand shot for defense, right? Or who's that right-hand guy on the forward there? And it's guys that we traded away at the deadline: Josh Manson, Ricard Raquel.
Yeah, Ricky. That's
honestly
guys you need. The guys you just traded away. Like everyone else needs to develop.
Yeah, and don't forget, we need Nick Delorier back.
Yeah, good luck.
That's he is very sought after.
He is a unique player. You don't sign Nick Delorier for his offense. You sign Nick Delorier so people leave your top players alone. He's a very inexpensive Milan Lucic at this point.
Remember the
Lucic way better in terms of defense and actual like on ice hockey knowledge, but don't discount Delorier. He gets in, he will take a beating, and he'll take muck, and he'll take whatever. So
yeah, I remember the 21 deadline. It didn't quite go through, but it got announced like it did, or got reported like it did, that Delorier was going to go to Pittsburgh for a first-round pick.
Sneaky name. We joked around. Sneaky name that would actually fit the Ducks, and like they could eventually move him for more if they wanted to, is Riley Smith.
Oh yeah,
Riley Smith. He's 31.
Oh, yeah. That's a good idea, actually.
Like the names out there aren't that intriguing for the right shot. Like outside Raquel, it's a 36-year-old Radulov. It's a aging Phil Kessel. It's David Perron, who probably will stay with the Blues. Like he's only ever signed contracts with the Blues. He's played for like 5 teams. Every contract he's ever signed is with the Blues. Fun little weird fact there.
It's fantastic.
Nemesnikov, didn't he already have a stint at Anaheim? Didn't Vladislav Nemesnikov stop by one day for a little slew in the?
Not that I can remember.
Double checking.
No, he didn't. He strikes
Rangers,
me as a guy.
Detroit, and Tampa.
Yeah, he strikes me as a guy
in Dallas.
Well, he strikes me as a guy that you could give a 2-year, $2.5, $3 million to, and he'd fill a hole. Right. Like he'd fill a hole.
Yeah.
Play multiple positions. We'll see. Verbeek's pretty smart. Evan Rodriguez is a guy that might get a lot of suitors and get quite a bit of a pay increase. Pittsburgh probably going to lose him because they're trying to keep Evgeny Malkin. Just some names. Just some names. Those are the guys with enough skill that they can help you score goals, and they're not too old. So, but yeah, the market's not exactly swimming in right wing market's not exactly swimming with top end prospects.
Not this year, so.
Josh Levo just won AHL MVP for the playoffs. I bet you he's back in the NHL playing for some team next year. And he should be. He didn't deserve to be in the AHL, as far as I'm concerned. He had a great year in Calgary, just didn't have any puck luck. So,
yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I got nothing else, Carter. I'll ask you again. Do you got anything else?
No, I'm good. That was it.
All right. Well, Shane, thank you very much for coming on today. Let everybody know what you're up to, where to find you, and yeah.
Flames Nation Radio is my podcast. Well, it's not mine, it's Pike's, but I like to tag along. Flames Nation Radio, you can find it. I'm constantly writing different pieces for Flames Nation. It's not beyond the box score when there's no box scores to be beyond. So right now I did a bunch of second round targets, and like I said, I've got to quickly pretty much tonight and then tomorrow get out of draft mode and get into free agency mode. And that's so hard for the Flames right now because I'm like, do I write an article on how Vincent Trocheck would be good, but only if Johnny Gaudreau leaves, or do I wait and see what happens with Johnny Gaudreau? It is a nightmare to try and do free agent targets because I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I know you alluded to it already on your Twitter, but I think we do need an article about that Johnny Gaudreau guy. I think he'd be a great fit in Calgary.
Yeah, I thought I was pretty witty this morning. So. Pike answered me immediately. I didn't even get the phone back in my pocket, and it buzzed, and Pike answered. So I was like, "What are you doing, Pike?" Like finding my little tweet. So no, I've been making fun of a lot of things lately. I've just been sarcastic on Twitter. My Twitter name's been on there the whole time. By all means, follow me. I do cover the Flames, but I will answer any question about any team. Honestly, because I pride myself in not being biased. I'll tell the Flames they suck even if they are good. So it's where I'm at. FlamesNation.ca. It's the only place you can find me right now. It's the only place I'm going to be, as I know, coming up this next year. So.
Sounds good. And if you're listening to the podcast as well, Shane's Twitter handle is at @flash_33 on Twitter. My handle is at Tate Nomas, TATENHOMAS. And Carter's going to play some outro music and tell you where to find him.
Yeah, I am at Carter_Potts, POTTS_97. The show is at Quack Report Pod on all the stuff, the Quack Report on YouTube. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. We'll be back next week, probably Friday, for free agency talk. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.